So we're talking about beats and how beats get broken into chunks, digestible chunks that we can comprehend. And this area of study, of understanding, is called meter. And that's like you would hear in poetry. People talk about meter, how the words are spaced or stacked, how many words per line, where rhymes happen, this kind of thing. And in this case, it's how we organize our beats. The word is not so important. What matters is the concept. So here we have a string of kick drums hitting on the beat. And right now they feel undifferentiated, meaning there's no way to organize them. We have a visual, of course. We can see that, but the listener would not see that. They're just feeling this string of hits that don't really mean anything yet. They're just hits happening in nowhere, going on infinitely. But we can organize these hits by putting them into groupings. So a simple grouping might be what's called duple, meaning two, and we get like this. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's a very short pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And we're organizing it just by groups of two. So we get a feeling that there's a little bit of a pattern going on. And whenever we do this, we get strong beats and we get weak beats. Strong beats in this case fall on the 1, and the weak beat is the 2. So I'll accentuate that with my voice. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So this pattern, this way of organizing things into strong and weak, is really what meter is all about. We can move on from duple into triple, which of course is using 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Notice how this organization of strong and weak, strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, strong, causes us to feel something about how the beats are organized. Before, they're just this stream that just feels constant and unchanging, but as soon as you put the numbers to them or the feeling to it of which ones are accented, as in which ones are strong and which ones are weak, you get this sense of a feeling about it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This kind of organization is not very common in electronic music. It's somewhat common in rock music. It's not as common as the next one we're going to look at, though. The next one is called Quadruple, and this is like 2 duple put together, you could say. So it's just, instead of 1, 2, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is by far the most common organization of the beat. The way to break it into chunks is this pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 1 is our strong beat, 2 is a weak beat, 3 is stronger than 2, and then there's 4, which is a weak beat. So we kind of have very strong, weak, strong, weak. Very strong, weak, strong, weak. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how like 90% of modern music is organized into groups of 4 like this. And I'll give an example. So I've got a little drum beat here. Now I've got a hi-hat and I've got a snare drum. We can listen to it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that the snare drum comes on 2 and 4. 2, 3, 4. And the kick drum comes on 1 and 3. That's 1 and 3 are the strong beats. 2 and 4 are the weak beats. So strong beats have this low sound on them, boom. And the weak beats have a higher kind of upper accent sound. Boom, cat, boom, cat, boom, cat. And it's a very easy for us to understand way of grouping things. We've heard it all our lives. In the previous video, I mentioned the term bar. So a bar is simply one time through the meter. Whatever that pattern is, whatever organization we're using, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are other ones too that we're not going to get into now, but these are the most common. One time through that pattern is equal to 1 bar. So every bar begins on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Every time you hit 1, you're on a new bar. A bar is also called a measure sometimes. If we hear someone talk about it's at measure 28. They mean bar 28. It's the same thing. So we divide these infinite stream of beats into groupings of strong and weak, and then a single time through the grouping is equal to 1 bar. And Studio One measures time, for the most part, in bars. So up here we see 28, 29, 30, 31, and so on. This is the bars, and if you look here, you see 30, then there's 3 little smaller grid lines in between. This is beat 1, 2, 3, 4. 31, beat 1, 2, 3, 4. Bar 32, beat 2, 3, 4. So each bar is divided into 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we're using that quadruple meter right now to get this sound we're looking for, this kind of organization. And most of the songs you'll make will probably be in that until you start experimenting in other kinds of meter. And that's up to you. We are going to talk about it in the future, but if you want to do some research on that, it's totally fine. I would suggest sticking with this for now until you exhaust these possibilities. There's so many things you can do with this division of 4 that until you feel like you really, really get it and you can do anything in the division of 4, it's probably a good idea to stay there, and then you can start branching out into other ways of organizing the beat too. Now remember, we talked about the note values in the previous video, and now we have some more understanding of this. A whole note, when we're talking about a meter that's quadruple, a whole note is equal to 4 beats, which is 1 bar. 1 bar in this case, one time around the pattern, is 4 beats, and a whole note is 1 bar. A half note is half a bar. This is not going to be the same if we were doing it in triple, because remember, a whole note is 4 beats long. And if in triple meter we're organizing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, there isn't even 4 beats in 1 bar, so you cannot have a whole note. A whole note is equal to 4 beats. It's not equal to 1 bar. People may disagree about this, but this is really the way that a lot of people who are serious about that kind of study talk about it. And you may find conflicting views, but it's simple enough to understand it this way. A whole note is 4 beats. And when we're talking about quadruple meter, dividing the beat into 4, that means a whole note lasts for 1 bar. But in a bar where we're talking about triple, 1, 2, 3, you can't have a whole note. Doesn't make any sense because a whole note is 4 beats. So you have a different note that would take that up, which is called a dotted half note. But we haven't talked about dots yet. Doesn't matter. The point being that in this quadruple meter, we can have a whole note lasting the whole bar, a half note half the bar, a quarter of the bar, which again is hitting on every beat. A quarter note hits on every beat. Eighth notes, there's 8 in a bar, and so on. So if we're looking down here at the drum pattern, I've got this divided into sixteenths right now, but we could divide it into eighths. And let's just grab all these and make them maybe like this. So we can see the hi-hats are hitting on eighth notes. Here, that's 1 beat, right? Now we're at 30.2, that's beat 2, here and here. So the hi-hats are on eighth notes. The kick drums are actually hitting on half notes, you could say, in that here we've got it on beat 1, nothing on beat 2, and beat 3 we've got it again. So that lasted for 2 whole beats. Now because a kick drum is not a note with pitch, it can't actually go boo and last that whole time, but its spacing is spaced in half notes. Every 2 beats you hear the kick drum. Same with the snare drum. Every 2 beats you hear the snare, but it comes on beat 2 and 4 versus beat 1 and 3. So we have kick, snare, kick, snare. Together, they're hitting quarter notes on the beat. Doom, cat, boom, cat, doom, cat, like that. And then we have this last little hit I put in here, which if I go onto the 16th grid, we can see it's hitting on a 16th note at the very end. So if we listen, I just put that in there right now to give some sense of differentiation between the first 2 beats and the last 2 beats. Otherwise, these 2 beats would sound exactly like these 2 beats, and it would almost sound like you're playing in a duple meter. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But generally there's some kind of variation going on, and then this makes us feel like we're in 4 counts. So dividing the beat into 4. So again, this is important to explore on your own. Go into Studio One, look at these things. Look at the bars up here. Look at the bars and beats down in your MIDI edit window. Change the quantized value. See what it does. It's important to understand this. We organize music into bars. So a section might last 16 bars, 32 bars, 2 bars, 4 bars, something like that. And that just means that that's 16 times around the pattern being 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if we were playing in triple, then 1, 2, 3 would be the pattern, and that would be equal to 1 bar. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 2 bars of triple. So this organizing principle of bars is very important to understand. However, I think if you explore on your own, you're going to be able to get a good understanding of it. And Studio One helps you because it breaks everything up into bars. So everything you've been doing so far has been organized by these numbers at the top, right? And these numbers are referring to how many bars is this thing lasting for. So from bar 25 up to the beginning of bar 29, that's this thing. That's 4 bars long, for instance. So in our case, a bar is often just 4 beats, because we're working in quadruple 99% of the time. And if you want to explore others, it can be organized differently. But when I'm speaking about bars in the future, I'm speaking about 4 beats in a bar, and these numbers are referring to that. And then down here, we can even see the individual beats being broken up into 16th notes or 8th notes or whatever we want. So it's good to experiment with this. And when we start making these drum beats, you're going to really get a visceral sense of it, because you're going to be using it to quantize to all these different subdivisions of the beat and so on. So let's get into that.